Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode in the series of GraphQL API with Eve, one of my lovely friends. Hi, Eve.
Hello.
You ready to do this again?
I'm so ready. I can't wait.
Well, I'm super excited. In the last episode, Eve talked and tried to help us understand better how to think about GraphQL microservices, and that was a really educational thing. For those of you who don't know, Eve is one of the co-founders of Moon Highway, and they do amazing training. So if you're looking for GraphQL training, definitely hit her up. And we love working with Eve on different GraphQL training stuff as well. So you're always a pleasure to hang out with and work with.
Vice versa. Back at you. Always fun to work with this dot. This is awesome.
So creating a federated service. Where do we start?
So basically what I want to do is let's take a look at how we take a regular old GraphQL API and turn it into a federated service. So here we have this little diagram.
Do you want me to share your screen?
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to share it too quick. So
no, I appreciate that. Always good. So basically we want to take a look at how do we go from this to this. In other words, how do we go from a single GraphQL API into one where we're creating different microservices for different parts of our domain and orchestrating everything behind the gateway. So this is super exciting, Tracy, because we're going to be using this tool called Apollo Federation, and Apollo Federation just came out with version 2. So we're using bleeding edge software today in our little demo, and we're going to take a look at kind of how a regular old schema looks and then how to make this into a federated one.
Awesome.
Sweet. So with our resources here, you can always follow along if you want to. github.com/moonhighway/federation-nation. In this repository, we have a bunch of different APIs. So we have an API for an account service. So this is all of our information and authorization details for all of our users. And then we have one for colors. So we're building something that's like serves up our data about colors, our favorite colors. So we'll have that there. And we also have a service for reviews. So think about these as being like, maybe you're managing a team where you're only responsible for reviews, you maintain your own schema, you built your own server, but now it's time for all of this data to merge. We're going to put it all together. So we're going to use Apollo Server to make that happen. Having said that, you don't have to use Apollo Server. There are tons of different resources out there, tons of different tools that you can use to build something like this. So let's take a look at our color service here. We're in the service colors index.js file, and we have this schema. So think of a schema as being like a document that describes all of the types that are part of your API. So obviously this is a small schema, but think about this, think about the objects that are part of your domain. This would be how your schema is put together. We have a type called color. We have a type called query that contains all the different queries that we can send to an API. So that's part one of our server. The next part here is resolvers. So resolvers, we have all of the functions that are going to return data to basically fulfill the requirements of the schema. So if I have a query called total colors that returns an int inside of my schema, then I need to write a function that's going to do the same thing. So that's what that looks like. We have an all colors query as well. That's going to work the same way. So I'm going to run this thing. Well, actually, what I'll do is I'm going to install everything that's here. And what we need to get this thing going is we got Apollo Server, we have GraphQL, and then we have short ID, which is not that exciting. It's just to create a little ID. But over here in our index, what we're going to do is we're going to run this thing. So let's start our server. It's going to tell us that it's running on localhost 4002. So we can pull that up. And this is an Apollo Studio sandbox. Have you seen this one before? There's like graphical and playground, but this one is sort of new. Pretty
Bleeding
fancy.
edge technology.
Bleeding edge. We're out here. We're being pioneers, you and me. So
is there like a benefit of using like Apollo Sandbox over like graphical and
yeah, so graphical was kind of like the first of the in-browser tools that you could use to explore an API. And then the playground came out, which gave you kind of the same stuff, but it gave you dark mode too, which was very exciting. So people were stoked on that.
differentiation.
Absolutely. So with the sandbox, it's kind of cool because if I particularly think this is fun for folks who are new to GraphQL. If you take a look at if you expand this little sidebar here, there's a query builder built right in. So you don't have to use your knowledge of the query language to write your query. You can say, I know I want some sort of a query. It'll pop that open for you. And I want to query total colors and all colors with the title, right? So now this is just going to build my query for me. It's going to make sure that all of my fields are valid. And then I can send the query without having to write it from scratch. So I like that little
I love that.
builder. Yeah,
yes.
totally.
Sounds amazing.
Super exciting, and also a good learning tool. I feel like if you're learning about GraphQL in general, or if you're learning about a new API, because having to guess at what these are, remember pinging Postman REST APIs to figure out what fields were there, that is really time consuming. So this will just tell you exactly what to do, which is sweet.
Love it.
Beautiful. So this is our color service. And basically what we want to do here is we want to transform this. We want to take our basic Apollo server and convert it into a server that's ready to be federated. So it's a service that's going to be put behind that gateway. So a couple things we need to do. I'll do this first so that I'm not making you wait for npm to install stuff. We're going to install at Apollo subgraph. And we're going to turn this thing, we'll put that away. We're going to turn this thing into a subgraph. And what I mean by that is not just to say a word and not explain it, but it's basically a GraphQL API that sits behind a gateway. So it's that we just have to kind of configure this to be ready to be consumed by a gateway, which is kind of cool. So not a lot of steps have to happen to make this work. We'll import this from Apollo subgraph. We'll collapse our type definitions and our resolvers. And then here where we're creating our server on line 35, I'm going to say build subgraph schema. I'm just going to pop I have to set the schema key to build subgraph schema. And then I'm going to pop these type definitions, our schema, and our resolver functions, those functions that go get the data, into this function. And now we're ready to go. So it feels like nothing happened, but something did. This has crashed now because I need to restart it. I'm going to say npm start. This is going to say I don't have GraphQL. That's fair enough. npm install, it'll go faster than we thought. And now, oh, weird. Debugging live, Tracy. It feels great. I feel alive.
Makes you feel like you did some work today.
Doesn't it though?
Because that was just so easy.
Super
what
easy.
you did and the way you refactored, I was like, dude, that's it.
That's it.
I'm done.
I know. So let's see. I love my life. We'll figure this out. So As always, whenever we are working on something, we can always delete our node modules folder. We can delete our package lock, right? We can unplug it and plug it back in. And I'm also going to close this package JSON here. And I want to make sure, so I know what I did. Ha ha ha. So check this out. Remember before when I was pointing out all these different folders? I need to install stuff in the right folder. All right. Holy moly. So we're going to install that Apollo subgraph again. I was getting too cocky about how fun and easy this would be, but it still is fun. It's never easy, but it's always fun, right? So let's run it again. We'll see that. We're going to say nvm use. We're going to swap our version of node because we remember. Oh my gosh. I'm in heaven. So this happened yesterday to me actually because we were using node 18 and this isn't supporting node 18. So we're fine. We're staying calm. Sweet. So now this always happens when people are watching. This is the best part of my life. Awesome. So now what we got, if we go to our color service, let me try a different version. We're going to say nvm list. And then we'll say nvm use 14.19.1. I'm getting so burned out here.
This is what happens when you're using bleeding edge technology.
I know, you start bleeding. You start publicly bleeding out. What a nightmare. Okay, so let's go back. We're gonna try this. So this is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna delete our node modules folder. Does this feel familiar? Then we're gonna delete this. Then we are going to make sure, and we're going to go back to our repo for this. So if you did want to jump to the solution for this step, you can find it at the step 1 branch. And I'm looking at this because I know that there is a version that I need to install, this subgraph. So that's what I'm going to do here. So it's 0.1.4 at Apollo subgraph. That before I break this again. I feel comfortable and confident in this moment in a way that I haven't for a minute. So we'll say npm install. This is going to be worth our efforts because we're about to see. We're not about to see anything. This is hell. All right. So let's see what we got. So here's what we'll do. How many times will I do the same thing? A lot. Tracy hates me right now.
No, I love it.
All right, cool. So
it just makes it seem, harder so that you actually feel like you're doing work, because doing this is, again, as we've seen, quite easy. I mean, it's pretty chill. You can do this right now.
We totally can. So here's what we'll do. So I've gone through this several times because I want to make sure that I'm using the right version of this subgraph package. So this is, hopefully, we're going to pray to the demo gods once more. Going to hold a crystal of some sort and we'll say npm start. It's running. Sweet.
Woo-hoo.
All right, so we're going to stay calm. We're going to refresh. And what we've done, it seems not super exciting, not as exciting as our debugging, but we still have our total colors and all colors, right? So we're able to get the data that we need. But What we've added is super exciting because there's this new field here called underscore service, and it's exposing this field called SDL. So SDL stands for schema definition language. And it's just saying, hey, make this schema available to the gateway to consume. So it's
Love
ready to
that.
go. And this means that if somebody else on our team or if we later are working on a gateway, we're going to be able to pull all of these types. We're going to be able to pull all of this data into our gateway. So we are ready to go. And what we needed to do to install all of that stuff was chaos, but we're pulling it from this Apollo subgraph, and we've just built a subgraph, which is pretty sweet.
Amazing. That was so easy.
Super easy. Nothing could go wrong. Everything that could go wrong did, but we're still fine. We still have it working, which is great. Nice. So yeah, this is how kind of the start of the schema process works. We would do this to all of our other services rather.
Mm-hmm.
So like our account service is already set up for this. We got our build subgraph schema, and it's really like 2 lines of code plus however long it takes you to install stuff. For me, longer than others. And then our review service is dialed in as well. So from here, we can create the gateway whenever we're ready.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So join us for the next episode in this series where Eve is going to so kindly tell us how to orchestrate services behind a gateway. I'm excited.
I am too.
I'm like, okay, we're preparing all the little babies. They're going to go to their little mommy.
You got it. I really love that. And I think you should make a video about Apollo Federation that uses that metaphor because it's awesome.
We could do that. I'm so down.
Get the babies ready. Get the babies ready for production.
Okay, everyone. Well, stay tuned and join us for the next one.